Ever wonder what really fuels the fire in a boxing ring? It's more than just two fighters trading punches. It's a story, a history, a clash of wills that often starts years before they ever step through the ropes. Today, we're diving deep into the untold truths behind boxing's biggest rivalries, uncovering the grudges, the psychology, and the raw emotion that turned great fights into legendary sagas. Let us start with one of the most iconic rivalries entered to the world, Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. Their feud was more than just a battle for the heavyweight championship, it was a reflection of a divided America. Ali, the charismatic, anti-establishment figure, and Frazier, the quiet, hardworking champion who felt disrespected. Ali's trash talk wasn't just for show, it was a calculated psychological weapon. He called Frazier an Uncle Tom and the white man's champion, which deeply hurt Frazier, a proud black man from the segregated South. This wasn't just about selling tickets, it was personal. Their first fight, the fight of the century in 1971, was Frazier's moment of vindication. He stalked Ali relentlessly, flooring him in the final round to win a unanimous decision. But the bitterness lingered. Their third and final encounter, the Thrilla in Manila, was one of the most brutal contests in boxing history. Both men left a piece of themselves in that ring. Ali later admitted his words went too far and tried to apologize, but Frazier carried that resentment for decades. The rivalry wasn't just about boxing, it was about identity, respect, and the scars palavras can leave. Now, let's fast forward to the 1980s, to the era of the Four Kings, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, and Roberto Duran. Their interconnected rivalries defined a golden age of boxing. The one that stands out for its sheer ferocity is Hagler versus Hearns. For 3 rounds, they waged all-out war, but what led to that explosion? Hagler was the undisputed middleweight king, a blue-collar warrior who felt he never got the respect he deserved. He was a brooding, menacing force. Hearns, the hitman, was his polar opposite in style, a lanky, devastating puncher with a killer right hand. The pre-fight tension was palpable. Hagler famously wore a hat that said war to the press conferences. He wasn't just preparing for a fight, he was preparing for battle. The first round is still considered by many to be the greatest in boxing history. They met Aka in the center of the ring and didn't stop swinging. There was no feeling out process, no strategy, just pure, unadulterated aggression. Hagler, despite being cut fatores on his forehead, managed to knock Hearns out in the 3rd round, cementing his legacy. The untold story here is the immense pressure Hagler felt to prove himself, to finally get his due. That fight was the culmination of years of frustration unleashed in 8 minutes of controlled chaos. Then there's the rivalry that was pure, unadulterated hatred, Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward. Neither man was the most technically gifted fighter of their generation, but they possessed something rarer, inhuman toughness and a warrior's heart. Their trilogy of fights wasn't for a major world title, but it captured the imagination of fans everywhere because it was about a primal struggle. Gatti, Thunder, was the more skilled boxer, but he loved to brawl. Ward, Irish Mickey, was a relentless pressure fighter from Lowell, Massachusetts. Their first fight was an absolute bloodbath. The 9th round is legendary. Ward landed a vicious body shot that dropped Gatti, who somehow managed to beat the count and survive the round. Ward won the fight, but both men earned each other's respect. In a sport built on ego, they developed a genuine friendship. Ward even became Gatti's trainer later in his career. The untold truth of their rivalry is that Jiu-Jitsu brutal battles forged an unbreakable bond. It's a reminder that sometimes the person who pushes you to your absolute limit is the one who understands you the best. Their story shows that the fiercest rivalries can lead to the deepest friendships. Let's shift gears to a more modern, tactical rivalry, Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez. This was a 4-fight saga cajun, a clash of styles. Pacquiao, the explosive, southpaw volume puncher, against Marquez, the brilliant, counter-punching master. Their first 3 fights were incredibly close and controversial. The first was a draw, and the next 2 were razor-thin decision wins for Pacquiao. Marquez and his fans felt robbed every single time. He believed he had figured out the puzzle of Pacquiao, but wasn't getting the credit from the judges. This deep-seated feeling of injustice fueled him. For their 4th fight, Marquez dedicated his entire training camp to one thing: developing the power to knock Pacquiao out. He knew he couldn't leave it to the judges again. He came in physically stronger than ever before. And in the 6th round, as Pacquiao lunged in, Marquez timed a perfect counter right hand that knocked Pacquiao out cold. It was a shocking, definitive end to their long and complex rivalry. The untold story here is Marquez's obsession. It wasn't just about winning. It was about proving, beyond any doubt, that he was the better fighter. His entire career became focused on that one moment of perfect, brutal vindication. Finally, we can't talk about modern rivalries without mentioning Canelo Alvarez vs Gennady Triple G Golovkin. This was a clash for middleweight supremacy. In their first fight, most observers believed Triple G had done enough to win, but the judges scored it a controversial draw. This sparked outrage and set the stage for a heated rematch. The narrative shifted. Triple G, once the feared knockout artist, felt he was a victim of boxing politics. Canelo, the sport's biggest star, felt his performance was being unfairly discredited. The respect they once had evaporated, replaced by genuine dislike. Canelo changed his style for the rematch, becoming more of a slick boxer-puncher, and won a close majority decision. The rivalry wasn't just about what happened in the ring, it was about the business of boxing. It was about who had the power, who was the aside, and how that can influence outcomes. Their third fight, years later, lacked the fire of the first two, with Canelo winning a more comfortable decision. This rivalry highlights how a controversial decision can create a grudge that a fight itself never could. It became less about sport and more about legacy, money, and power. So, what do all these rivalries have in common? They transcend the sport. They're about pride, respect, revenge, and the human desire to be the best. The trash talk, the press conferences, the stare-downs, it's all part of a psychological war that happens long before the first bell rings. These fights become legendary not just because of the punches thrown, but because of the stories behind them. They're real-life dramas played out on the grandest stage, reminding us that behind every great fighter is a complex human being, driven by emotions we can all understand. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into boxing history, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss another video. Let me know in the comments which boxing rivalry you think is the greatest of all time. Until next time.